Welcome to the On the Pen, the Weekly Dose podcast, your one-stop shop for obesity medicine news with your host, man on the pen, Dave Knapp. Welcome to a special live edition of On the Pen, the Weekly Dose podcast. I'm your host, Dave Knapp, man on the Mounjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Compound. That pen is what we talk about. And there is breaking news today, this Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, in the Outsourcing Facilities Association versus the FDA. And now Eli Lilly, an interested party, has joined into this case. So it's the Lilly lawyers, it's the FDA lawyers versus the FDA lawyers in the court of Judge Mark Pittman in District Court in Fort Worth, Texas. We had a member of the OTP community was able to attend this hearing today. So I'm going to start everything off with a caveat that this is secondhand information from the court. So I wasn't personally there. This was not televised. This is just a reporting back of what was reported to me in this case. And there is absolutely massive news if true. Of course, what we're waiting for currently are the actual filings in this court case, which should be coming within the next couple of hours. Of course, if there is anything that contradicts what we talk about today, or is there's any sort of supplementary information that we may miss in this broadcast, of course, we'll bring it to you at onthepen.com. It's super important that you sign up for email alerts at onthepen.com by going to onthepen.com, scrolling to the bottom of the page, and then simply filling out the information. It literally takes 10 seconds, and then you'll never miss a breaking news update. So we will give you that information as it happens. Now, the motion was made yesterday on the 13th to reopen this case officially between the Outsourcing Facilities Association and North American Custom Laboratories, LLC, doing business as Pharmacio Custom Compounding, versus the United States Food and Drug Administration and Dr. Robert M. Califf, who is the chief, the head of the FDA. So this case was reopened yesterday, and basically in this briefing or this hearing today, we were hearing about the potential for a summary judgment. Now, there's a lot of legalese going on here, so I need you to bear with me. I'm going to try to put this in layman's terms as best I can, but I've sort of been learning this along the case with you, right? Just like when we talk about medicine, I'm not a doctor. When we talk about legal stuff, I'm not a lawyer. I am as much a lawyer as I am a doctor, and I am neither. But we're learning this together. So thankfully, I've got really smart doctors that come on this show and help us understand the medical stuff and sort of put it in layman's terms. We've also got friends within the community who are legal experts, and they help us understand these too. So basically, the judge had wanted to move this case into the direction of a summary judgment. Now, a summary judgment basically would have made it so that the judge in this case could have just examined the information that has been given to the court so far, and provided there was no sort of dispute of the facts within this document, just issue a judgment on the legality of what the FDA did here in ending the shortage. Today, the Outsourcing Facilities Association had the opportunity to essentially argue against that summary judgment so that they could review the facts presented by the FDA in this case, which have a lot of redactions and information in it that Eli Lilly deems to be proprietary information. In other words, it's information about how they distribute drugs and manufacture drugs. And they don't want the Outsourcing Facilities Association, who could be seen as a potential, competitor, right? They want compound shut down. They don't want trade secrets in the hands of the Outsourcing Facilities Association. And so there's been some squabbling back and forth over this information. And essentially, it seems like, again, according to reports on the scene, that they have come to an agreement in order for the court to share that information with the Outsourcing Facilities Association. There was some back and forth as to essentially the chief, general counsel of the Outsourcing Facilities Association. The general counsel would just be like, this is your attorney that you go to for legal advice and helps you make legal decisions in your business. So sort of separate from this trial, they have a attorney that acts as their legal counsel who's also involved in this lawsuit. And so essentially what Lily's arguing here is that if this guy who represents you in your daily operations of your business is allowed to see the proprietary information about how we develop drugs and everything, he's never going to be able to not include that confidential information in his guidance that he gives to your business outside of this trial. Is that making sense to you all? In other words, they didn't want this guy who deals with the OFA in sort of an advisory role in their day-to-day operations to have access to this information that Lily sees as proprietary, confidential, because they don't think he could not use that information. It's just asking too much of a human to have something in your brain and not use it, right? So they've gone back and forth. Basically, it sounds like he may resign as their legal counsel outside of this trial, and so they're just finding a way that they can share that information. So I hope you all tracked with that. So it sounds like what was done today was that the Outsourcing Facilities Association was actually able to successfully argue in favor of a preliminary injunction instead of a summary judgment. And this is probably good news. Why is this probably good news? Well, because the summary judgment would have just been basically the judge looking at the information that's there, making a clean ruling on the facts that have been presented, and then being done with it. So a preliminary injunction would actually allow the OFA to sort of poke around into this information, which will prolong this trial, this lawsuit. Will prolong the trial, because instead of just the judge looking at the information given to the court and saying, here's my ruling, now it sounds like the preliminary injunction will be allowed to move forward, and the OFA will be able to poke around into that information and perhaps, get into, providing some more evidence to the court, etc. So that's probably a good move, which will ultimately set off a timeline. So this is what we're waiting for to drop today in the court filings, is what the schedule looks like moving forward. And so the OFA will motion for the preliminary injunction, and then the court will give time for the FDA and Eli Lilly to respond to that, and then more time for the OFA to respond back to that. So there's just basically a series of filings, and within these filings, weeks will elapse. So the legal counsel is given plenty of time to react and respond to these and to go over it and mull over it. And so they have to file by these deadlines that the court gives them. And that schedule, that briefing schedule, is what we're waiting to see from the court. Now, the OFA argued that the time that it would take to go back and forth with all this information would push things too close to those deadlines that the FDA has given on enforcement. That's why they will argue for a preliminary injunction, which would ultimately keep the FDA from enforcing anything against compounds in the meantime. So the judge will at that point have a hearing. Well, he could just issue a judgment, but likely they will have another hearing somewhere late February, I'm guessing, will be the time frame where he will basically make a ruling on a preliminary injunction or not, because he can grant it or not based upon how he sees the facts of the case laid. So this could ultimately lead to different timelines on the ending of compounds. We'll have to see. All of this has major implications as it relates to what the potential timeline is for the compounds to sort of cease or to not cease. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. Now, sort of what we're waiting for is these filings to come along. And if these filings come along today, we'll definitely throw them up at onthepen.com so that you can take a look at them for yourself. If anything, if any of that information changes the reporting that we've given you today, we will definitely keep you informed. Now, some interesting little tidbits from the trial is it sounded like the reason that the judge wanted to move this quickly towards a summary judgment is that he knows, and this could cut either way, the OFA or the FDA and Eli Lilly, he knows that this is going to end up in an appeals court one way or the other. So it sounds like his greatest desire was to get this off of his schedule so that he could sort of move on. So it sounded very apparent that the judge wanted to see quicker resolution, but it sounds like in the end, it sounds like a small win for the OFA in that it sounds like they'll be moving towards the preliminary injunction route rather than the summary judgment, which is, like I said, a little win for the OFA in this battle back and forth. The other thing that, again, just reports from on the scene was that the OFA was really taking umbrage with some information that the courts had, the FDA had provided to the court. Apparently, somewhere around 217 people have reportedly died while on compounds, according to their data. The OFA tried to sort of address that in today's proceeding, and it sounds like the judge interrupted the counsel for the Outsourcing Facilities Association, saying that today was not about discussing the merits of the case. Rather, it was about developing the briefing schedule moving forward. So just an interesting anecdote from the trial there. And so, yeah, it's just a very interesting development here when it comes to the compound tirzepatide saga. Of course, hundreds of thousands within this community are relying on compounds for access. This all while today we saw Eli Lilly stock dump 8%, and different reports are basically saying that was in part due to a lower than expected supply, which slaps in the face of this whole thing. Another thing that sort of slaps in the face of this whole thing is the CEO from Eli Lilly, Mr. Dave Ricks, has been making the rounds on the different news programs as it's earnings season. And this, is kind of when they come out of hiding and talk about what has been happening. They missed their sales expectations for 2024, largely driven on missed sales for Zepbound and Mounjaro. But in sort of the course of discussing all of this, the CEO for Lilly was talking about orforglipron, which the target for orforglipron, which is their oral small molecule GLP-1 pill, is set to hit the market sometime in 2026. And is in part of his discussing this, he actually said there will likely continue to be supply constraints on the injectable medications until then, which is a reiteration of something that he's already said. But again, how we need more transparency in this process. How can a CEO of a company make it make sense? How can a CEO of the company that is ending the shortage and fighting a legal battle in court over the shortage being over make statements about continued supply constraints on the drug, missed sales expectations because of lower than expected basically output of medication to the market? It's just make it make sense. It's not making sense to me. There needs to be more transparency in this whole process, which is something that we're advocating for at policies4thepeople.com. Now, that is the news on the OFA stuff. Again, we'll update you at onthepen.com as the documents drop in this case, but we wanted to bring you this update from a person who was on the ground today and basically let everybody know that it sounds like a small win for the OFA today. If this all rings true in the filings that we'll see in the court in the next hour or so, we shall see. Sonia, that's a great question. Sonia asked in the chat, did the compound cause the death? I think this would be like similar to a VAERS reporting. It's like when there's a death or a severe health incident, and somebody's on a medication, it gets reported to. It's not necessarily an indication that it was a cause, but associated with the patient who lost their life. So that is the update today on the court case. and some of the interesting comments that have been made by Mr. Ricks, who is now, just as we are speaking here, he is speaking live at the JP Morgan Chase health conference, and we will bring you any updates that may come out of that as well. We're watching that closely to see if perhaps he weighs in. I'm assuming he's gotten a phone call and an update on what is going on in the trial down there in Fort Worth. And it will be interesting to see if he gives any information or has anything to say about what happened today in court. And I'm sure he may have something to say, because I'm sure the investors are very curious. Of course, he's going to be speaking to a bunch of investors on the day that their stock dropped the most it's dropped, I think, in several years. So a very, very fun day, I'm sure, to be the CEO of Eli Lilly. A couple other things that I want to bring to your attention. You may be aware that the Medicare announcement from a couple of weeks ago, where the Biden administration basically changed guidance for Medicare and is allowing them, or wants to allow Medicare to offer anti-obesity medications to people on Medicare. There is actually a comment period that takes place when policies like this change. And so I am going to link in the description of this video a way for you to interact with that if you want to advocate for that policy change that is taking place potentially with Medicare. They want to hear from their constituents on this. And so I'm going to link that in the description here. There was a community member who brought this to my attention. I can't believe that the Obesity Action Coalition doesn't reach out to creators like myself and work directly with us to help get the word out and drive engagement on this stuff. They need to do better, right? Put do better in the comments if you agree with me on that. We are literally reaching hundreds of thousands of people who are on this medication every single month, and people want to be involved. They want to advocate. So I'm going to link that in the description of this video. And it's with the OAC, the Obesity Action Coalition, and they will link over to a way for you to make public comments, because we do definitely want to see anti-obesity medicines added to Medicare for coverage of those living with obesity who are of Medicare age. Let's see here. There's a couple comments that I want to address here. Alex says, is 503A and 503B affected by all this, or just 503B? Both are. 503A has to end their compounding of essential copies of the medicine by the 19th of February, and 503Bs by the 19th of March. I think I have the dates right on that. 503As do believe that they will live on through custom dosing and custom formulations. I myself am personally skeptical that will be widely available for patients, at least not the way that these ones are here, because the reason we have so much compound available is because right now 503Bs manufacture them. They make them literally with machines to the tune of 80 million of them last year. Now, 503As all have to be done by hand. I don't think that there's enough people out there to do these custom formulations in the volume that they've been doing these with the 503B outsourcing facilities. And they're, of course, the ones that have brought the lawsuit against the FDA. I think there will also be a barrage of cease and desist letters, and probably lawsuits that look a little bit different than the lawsuits that we're currently seeing. Because there has to be a medical need precipitating a custom dose or a custom formulation. And it's going to be very hard for doctors, telehealths to defend when people have been currently receiving the normal dosing and the normal formulation of tirzepatide and not these custom formulations. But it's a big TBD, right? I don't think anybody actually knows exactly what will happen, but I think what we can actually bank on for sure is that there will be cease and desist letters aplenty, and probably some very vicious lawsuits. And, you're going up against, I believe, at least before the stock dip today, I believe they were about the largest company by market capitalization in the world. So I don't know how many people are going to have an appetite for that fight, but we shall see. So tons of news. So bringing you a live version of our podcast this week. If you are not following along at onthepen.com. Make sure that you do that. Make sure you subscribe. About 35% of the viewers of this program are not subscribed to our YouTube channel. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button and then the bell for notifications. That's going to make sure that you get notifications every time we go live, because there's always breaking news and we are the first to bring it to you. So if you want to know if that's important for your journey, and many people have told us that it is, then you want to make sure that you get the information as it comes out. Another plug also for Decoding GLP-1, a guide for friends and family of those on the pen. Our book is out. It's available at glpbook.com. Many people have left some amazing reviews on this on Amazon. You can get there and look at them by going to glpbook.com. It'll take you right there. But very proud of the work that we have done here with the GLP book. It is getting rave reviews. So thank you for those who have left reviews. Thank you for those who have supported the work that we're doing by purchasing a copy of the book. If y'all don't have any other questions, we'll probably wrap it up. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen. I'd like to also thank our partners, Row. Row is the company that partners with On the Pen to bring you this show every single week. And Row has a program called the Row Body Program, available at row.co/OTP, where patients can get connected with doctors that can prescribe, when medically necessary, these medications that help patients lose 15 to 20% of their body weight on average in a year and just find new life again. And that is the big story of these medications, of people who are rediscovering life. Because they can walk up the stairs again. They can play with their kids and take their dog for a walk again. They're living life again, thanks to modern medicine and thanks to companies like Row, who are connecting doctors with patients with state-of-the-art apps and leveraging technology to bring people better health. So thank you to Row. If you're ever going to consider starting a new medication, you want to inform yourself of the risks. Of course, there are risks with any medication. That includes GLP-1s. All that information is going to be available on their website, row.co/OTP. Within a couple of clicks, you can find all of that information. Thank you for being here. It sounds like we've got some new filings that have come through the court. According to the chat here, we will see. Yeah. I'll have to update them. We'll provide them to you again at onthepen.com. So just a plug to go over to onthepen.com, sign up for those email alerts. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being the best part of what we do at OTP. Couldn't, wouldn't, and shouldn't do it without you. This Thursday night, a plug for our live show that happens. It's a special one. So you know that TikTok is ending. TikTok is going away in the United States probably within the next few days. There's going to be a mass exodus of TikTok creators that make GLP-1 content. I'm calling them TikTok refugees. Many of them are going to come over here to YouTube and really enrich the community over here on YouTube with their content. And so what we're going to do is we've opened up our live show on Thursday to TikTok refugees who are going to come over here and create content so we can introduce our friends from TikTok to our friends on YouTube, and you can get a little flavor of the content that's to come to this platform and find out where to follow these people. So that will be what our show on Thursday night is dedicated to. I hope that you'll tune in, and I hope you'll get connected with some of the creators that I have enjoyed following over on TikTok who are now migrating over to YouTube. So make sure you join us at 9 p.m. Central on YouTube Live. That actually streams to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well. So make sure that you tune in wherever you get your OTP. So there's the update. If you are a creator and you are looking to move to YouTube and you would like to be featured, you can fill out the form at onthepen.com/YouTube. So onthepen.com/YouTube is where you can get that form, and we will make sure that we review that. And everyone who has the type of content that is a good fit for this channel and this community, we will allow them their 30-second to a minute-long elevator pitch, whatever it ends up being, maybe a couple minutes per person, whatever. But I'm excited to bring that to you. So thanks for being here. We'll catch you on the next one. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in on this Tuesday afternoon for this special live edition of On the Pen, the Weekly Dose podcast. See y'all.